and Michael's plan for this wedding to bring us all together for several days is that we all get to meet each other. We get to meet the people you've been talking about over here, and I suspect you guys have been talking about us. Yeah, Norwegians. Yeah, you know. So yeah, a bit. So we get to meet each other, and that's really nice. And meeting Andrew has been a privilege. We've had a lot of fun in San Francisco, in wine country, in Berkeley country, in bars.
In bar?
I asked
with a T or without a T?
Andrew, how could I introduce you? And you said, and we were trying to keep politics out of this Toastmastering thing we're going to do, but I just couldn't. Because Andrew is said to be the only person to go to Berkeley and come out a Republican. Probably why he's Michael's best man. So, the funniest speech of the night, Andrew.
No pressure. So, I think the first thing to say is I appreciate Michael and Martha taking their time to decide to finally get married, because it gave me 5 years to think about what to say. I think that there's a few things that I want to say, and some of you may have heard them already. I guess it's the risk you run when you're the last speech of a week. The first one, I think, is that this was an unlikely story. I think that began even before Martha was here. If you lived at W House, you had to have an unusual story. Most people don't stay there. It's a little house in a big town. So for you to live there, you had to have a weird story in the first place. And I think both Michael and I had that. Bear with me. You've heard this story. But the first time I ever saw Michael, I thought, this is a great guy. He's actually helping his younger brother move in. When I found out that it was actually him moving in, I was sort of surprised. I looked at the beard and the long hair, and I thought, how could we two get along? I'm just a kid. And I really was. And this is a guy who had already lived quite a life. And yet, if you had told me then how much my life would be different, having known him, I would call you a liar. And yet, over the next few months, this is still before Martha, I found a lifelong friend, one who was especially good at honest truths and would console you in the worst times, but could party like the best of them. And we had a lot of fun. There are things that I'm doing today that I would have never done had I not met Michael. And then that first semester ended, and there was a bunch of Europeans that showed up. And little did I know that they would be friends that to this day I could pick up like we had never left. And it is surprising, but it's not. We had so much fun. We did so many things, and to a person, we got along impeccably. And I think that is a credit to Michael, and I think that's a credit to us as a group that like was said before, when you're a good person, you attract other good people. And we certainly did that. And the fact that our lives were so different from just a few months being together is a testament to that. And like others have said, we watched the story. We watched how these people grew together while being apart. And it was a wonderful thing to see. And when Martha came back, I thought, okay, well, this has got to be really serious now. And that was a great time, seeing them grow together over a whole year. And then Martha left. And Michael and I had to go back to just living by our lonesome. And there are legacies to that day about things that happened that year. For instance, any of you who have had Michael's homebrew, you can thank me for that.
Yes.
Because one day we were having a conversation in the car, and we said, you know, it'd be fun to brew. And we ended that day with a trunk full of brewing equipment. So if you're ever drinking one of Michael's brews, just think of me. And those were some of the best times that I've had. And so at the end of that year, I sort of knew before the conversation that Michael and I had when he said to me, no, I think I'm going to move to Norway. And that's when I really knew. That's when, even if he didn't, although I'm pretty sure he did, that these two people were irreparably hooked. That there would be no way to tear that asunder. And that thousands of miles and a different culture and a different language would be incapable of separating the two of them. And to know that we, the Westminster people, were there at the very beginning, to see that whole process was a wonderful thing. And I'm not the first to say it this week. Vegard beat me to it, asshole. Yeah. Our lives are better having known you, having been part of your story even for a little while. You know, when I hear about home brewing and Thanksgivings and sort of American things making their way over, I think that's a wonderful thing, because those were things that we shared too. And so even though our paths stayed together for a little while, they diverted, and you've now shared that. And the love that we have has grown. And it now involves this huge family of people who, to a person, even if I haven't met you, I've grown to love. So, I'm not going to keep going because we're all standing, not sitting this time, and I want to cut cake. But I love you both. You know that more than I'll ever be able to say. And that I don't have the words. I love you both. Skål.
Skål.